given that
Yes.
we're, what?
Yes, that would be
Okay,
great.
so let's just sort of vote ourselves in as present. Woody Chidick, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Earl Higginson, aye.
Lee Darcey.
Michael Dickey, aye.
Okay, good, all in and accounted for. This first hearing is a continuance of a continuance of a continuance at 31 Bow Street. Montana, I might have misheard you today. In the packet is a request for a continuance. I thought you said they may be withdrawing.
Yeah, so they just withdrew this morning and I was working from home today, but I did email you their withdrawal letter.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all that we need to do is to accept the applicant's request to withdraw. And I would say withdraw without prejudice if they wish to come back at any point in time. That's their shot to call. If we denied it with prejudice, of course, which is not the issue here, they would have to wait 2 years to bring back a similar request. So I would make a motion to accept the applicant's request to withdraw without prejudice.
Second that.
Okay, Woody Chidick, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Earl Higginson, aye.
Lee Darcey.
Mike Dickey, aye.
Okay, so that is made and seconded and approved to withdraw. The next hearing is again a continuance on 4 Great Brewster Road by the Sullivans to build a single story addition to the home.
Woody, you may have last month's agenda, because they submitted revised architectural plans and existing and proposed plans as well, which should be in your packet.
Okay, I do, but it says Tuesday, April 2nd, zoning board agenda. So I'm reading off the agenda.
Oh, I don't have that on my end. They didn't request us a continuance.
No, I didn't say continuance.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's what I heard. I
No,
apologize.
to build a single story addition to the home.
My
And
apologies.
yes, they have a plethora of new material submitted to us. So I would propose that we open this continuance. And who's here to represent the applicant who can explain to us what's being changed and from what we've seen previously?
Brendan Sullivan is with us, and then I also have the owners pulled in too.
Okay.
Yep.
Brendan, it's over to you.
Good evening. Yes, Brendan Sullivan from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. Also here with the owners and the applicants, Kevin and Kelly Sullivan, of no relation, by the way. Montana, if I could share the screen, I could pull up the plans.
Yes, 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, you should be all set.
Great. So hopefully everybody can see that.
I can, yeah.
Wish I could.
We now have your calendar. That's probably.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And this plan, Brendan, includes the 2 abutting properties, physical property. I don't mean properties, but structures.
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you see the plan here? Hopefully.
I can't. I'll say yes for one. I can't speak.
Okay. Yeah, it's a.
Can anybody not see it? Okay, so you're good to
Okay.
go.
Great. So from before we have shrunken the footprint. We got the so our lot coverage is down to our lot cover our building coverage. Put this up top. I could zoom into the zoning table here. So we got our building coverage down to the maximum requirement, maximum allowed, which is 20%. We also have our lot coverage down to 20% as well, because basically all of the lot coverage is the building coverage. If you remember from before, we are removing the shed. We're removing the brick patio in the back. We're removing the Bitconk driveway. We'll have a gravel driveway. Still removing this one-story addition on the left side of the house. As you're looking at, the street is up the top. And so we're basically just going back in footprint, back and up. If you remember this one, the front yard setback is basically in the backyard. So we're not conforming front and both sides. We are conforming in the rear yard. This dashed line here is the building setback. So with that, if I could bring up the architecturals.
Okay, and Brendan, can I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
The new submissions that we have supersede all of the old submissions we have except for the application. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, that helps. Thanks.
Yes. So yeah, so maybe the old zoning application and table will need to be updated. I think that probably was not resubmitted, right?
Right.
I think it was just the plans. With that, we have the first floor existing in the red over here on the left-hand side. Second floor existing, and everything in red is shown is non-conforming. So then on the right-hand side, these two, we have the first floor proposed, which in blue is shown the new footprint that is non-conforming. This section is going to be removed on the first floor, and the second floor you can see there's just a straight line there, and this white area in here is conforming to the building setbacks. So it's the blue, the red is the existing, and the blue is the additional footprint for the first and second floor. Kind of the same thing for the facade. We have a let's see, this is the front view, which everything is non-conforming, so it's all shown in red. The left side, the right side, and the rear. The rear, this little, once again, this little white area is conforming in setback. So going to the let's see, the front elevation, the new facade is in blue. The front is approximately, this is approximately a 10% increase in the facade. The rear, with the a new deck in the back with sliding access to the back, the rear facade is approximately 11% increase in facade. The left side, looking at the house, left side, which is where the entrance to the house will be, on the more or less on the driveway side. Once again, the blue is the new, the red is the existing. The left side is approximately an 81% increase in facade, and the right side is approximately 57% increase in facade. This, once again, the area in blue is the new, the area in red is the existing non-conforming. The white area here is just outside. We're able to bump in that setback a little bit on that side, so it is conforming on that little bump out there. So that's what you're looking at on that white side. On the right side is that area right there as it bumps out to the back. So those are the increases in facade. Once again, we got the lot coverage down to 20%, the maximum required, and also the lot coverage as well, because there's no other impervious on the lot other than the roof of the new structure. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Who would like to start out?
Just for orientation purposes, is it the north elevation? Is that the elevation that faces Gray Brewster Trail?
No, the north elevation which is this one here, right? Proposed north, left side
Yeah.
elevation. That's the left side elevation. The one that faces Great Brewster Trail is going to be the west elevation front, which is this one here.
The front of the house?
Is it, looking at the site plan, it looks like the Great Brewster Trail facade is the north facade.
Yes, it is a little bit of an angle there, but I would probably agree with you that the front is probably more northerly than what the architect used.
Okay, let me try to get reoriented then.
Yeah, I think Dave, the front is definitely north. I mean, it's almost due north. But the Great Brewster Trail, you're not talking about the road, but are you talking about the footpath?
No, I'm talking about the street.
Okay, yeah, well, still.
The
same.
house faces the street.
The way I'd read it is that it's almost due north.
Yes, that is the case. The street is on the north side of the. Not quite sure why the architect chose it that way, but he did label it underneath as he did label it underneath as, you know, he does have in parentheses front, left side, rear, and right side.
Okay, well, that's, I was just confused. That clears up a
Okay.
lot of the confusion.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Well, you've
Yes.
certainly made a number of adjustments and compromises, which difficult when when an existing dwelling is 90% at least non-conforming to start with. It's almost nothing, you know. Really complicated. Oops, sorry. Forget this.
Fulcrum, Malden, ME.
Ignore me.
Fulcrum.
Go ahead.
That's the only question I had for now.
Charlie Higginson, did I hear wrong that this was a request for a one-story addition? Because it's clearly 2 stories.
Yes, so once again, the application has not been updated, which probably it should be. We just updated the plans architecturally and the site plan as per our comments from the last meeting. But yeah, it's clearly a second story addition. It's probably right now, I'm not sure if it would be considered a 1.5 story. It's probably it probably is a 2-story now. Is that the
Yeah, you've got a bedroom up there and a couple, you know.
yeah.
bedrooms. Yeah, so.
Yeah, but usually for a half story, like if this floor area was half of this floor area, but I don't think that's the case. Actually, the existing footprint, that's within the setback. Well, we have the total floor area over here.
Yeah, you scroll a little bit more to the right.
Yeah, gross
There you
floor area, existing is 569, and the second story is 416. So it's basically a 2-story now, because the second story is more than 50% of the first story.
Thank you. The second question, where does one park
So we'll probably have a gravel parking on the, in the same area where the Bitconk Drive is now, in this area over here. Once again, this will be opened up because this, you know, this part of the addition is going away. So this 7.4 will turn into, well, this dimension down here is about 13.5, so there'll be ample room to park on that side, as they do today.
But I thought that was the driveway was being taken away, so it was parking on grass now? It will be?
No, it would be changed to probably a gravel or crushed stone driveway. So it'll be pervious. So
Okay, okay.
it won't count as lot coverage or building coverage.
It likely will, I mean, is there any turnaround it'll require backing out into the road? Which is not good. On the other hand, this is a lightly traveled road. There are only about 4
Yeah.
dwellings on it, so
I think-
it's, you
Yeah,
know,
this one, I think there's 2 other dwellings up beyond this one, in which most of the
oh,
driveway,
that's right, the others don't count, yeah.
most of the others pull out to the driveway as well, pull out to the street.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying I'm not saying it's fatal, I just observing the fact that generally speaking, we don't like to force people to back out into a roadway, but in this case, with 2 upland neighbors only, it's not likely to be the kind of traffic hazard that it would be if you were, you know, wherever, North Main Street, South Main Street or something.
I have one other nitpicky question. On the original application and then again on this revised site plan, you're showing frontage as 7 feet. That doesn't look right to me at all.
No, the frontage,
That's the setback.
that's the front setback.
Okay,
Yes, frontage is 50. Yeah, that should be 50 and 50, not 7. That's the front
Okay.
yard setback. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we'd certainly, Brendan, need a corrected, absolutely accurate version of these statistics and things so that, because if, assuming we were to approve it, it would be part of the file, and I don't want to
Yep.
consider
understood.
anything that's inaccurate and have a successor 20 years down the road, you know, yelling at the zoning board.
Sure, because they approved the plan with 7 feet of frontage.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
Just enough to drive your bicycle down.
Yeah.
And while you're at it, again, correct the discrepancy between north facing and front and all that stuff.
Yep. I'll have the architect update his plans as well.
Board, ask some tough questions.
I think everybody's satisfied, Woody.
Well, that could be construed thusly.
I don't want to speak for everybody, but hear an awful lot of silence, which is
Well, we haven't asked, are there any other neighbors or anything covering this issue?
Yeah, Montana, is anybody in the queue?
There's no one in the queue at this time.
And we received no updated commentary from the abutting neighbors or the people across the street?
No.
Brendan, do you know if the applicants have shown any these revised plans to their immediate neighbors?
I don't know as though they did. They are on the call, the owners applicants, Kelly and Kevin. I know they did talk with one of the neighbor from who submitted the letter before, and it was, not to speak out of line, but it was something about the, one not knowing that the other one did type of thing, so. Because they did speak to one of the, one of the members of the house, and she said it was okay, and then all of a sudden the letter came up, and not quite sure where that came from, so. But I don't know if they've shared the plans, these most recent plans with
Did
the.
you, if are the clients on this call as we speak?
Yeah, Kevin and Kelly, if you're there, if you could speak up. You guys are probably on mute. You want to unmute? I know
Can you
they,
hear us now?
Hello?
we can hear you, Kelly.
Hi there. I did have the opportunity to speak to the neighbor north of us. Their house is probably about 80, 100 feet away. And she and her husband seemed to, I think they had differing concerns, and I think I was able to allay her concerns. I told her that there would be a new drawing, posted in the paper and so forth. And she was happy to hear it. And we had a good conversation. And she was really the only neighbor that I knew of that had any concerns.
And this
So-
neighbor, because of north and, some slight confusion, the name of the neighbor, last name?
Duggan.
Duggan, okay.
Oh, I think it's O. Duggan.
Oh,
so
Duggan,
it is-
yeah, oh, this one here, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
That's actually the neighbor to the east,
East,
who was at 10 Great Brewster, and that's where the letter came from.
That's right.
Okay. We did not have a chance to share the new drawings as it was sort of last minute, and my wife's been dealing with the recovery of her surgery, and we haven't actually been over the house, just once with the architect to go over the final
Revision.
yeah, the floor plans. And you will notice on these revised edition, the roof line hasn't changed at all. We didn't raise it. It's the same roof line. We just added the second floor because they had restricted the back building out. And I think we kept everything scaled back as far as we could to still make it livable, have a first floor bedroom for ourselves during our retirement time.
okay, I raise that. The neighbors don't have a veto power, but it's a matter of courtesy and,
I agree with
neighborhood, harmony.
Yes,
really
I agree
more
with
the
that.
issue.
His concern was the driveway at one point in his letter, but he was remiss when he didn't realize that that portion of the house was coming off. He thought we only had like 3 feet and we were gonna be parking like abutting heads, but we're gonna have 13-foot wide driveway, 32 feet long. So
Plenty of
that
room, yeah.
quelled his issue, yeah. And like all the neighbors on the street since I've been going over there, they back in the driveway, which is what I do, so that you're pulling face out, and there's enough room to do that. You pull up the street and back in the driveway. So even that's not an issue, and there are some restrictions with the Cohasset conservation that they asked, there's no parking on the street, which we've adhered to once we knew the rules. So there's really no parking on the sidewalks or anything. You just park in your driveway. So it's not a non-issue.
Okay, good. Board, other questions? Oh. Well, typically, silence, typically, as you may be aware, we continue a hearing 1 month after the substantive material has been digested and gone over to review and then ultimately vote on a draft decision. Because of time restrictions, we don't ever close a hearing on the same night that we're hearing material. So unless somebody has any concern or angst, I would make a motion to continue this hearing until May, primarily May 7th, date certain, primarily to review a draft and arrive at a decision. But in the interim, if there's other material that is, germane, we're certainly open to receiving that up to 7 days of the next hearing. But
Woody, we are gonna need a revised application and a
Oh.
table on the plans to fix that frontage issue and
yeah, sorry, both the table and the orientation, east versus north and so on and so forth. So we will get that anyway.
Yes, you'll
Yeah.
have that in short order.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other material the board would like to see between now and the May hearing?
Just one other question, Woody. I think you might have addressed it, but to have the architectural and the and Brendan's plans coordinated so they match up as well.
From more than just an orientation, east, north, south, and west, but
Right, so that they just equal each other. It seemed I think other people might experience the same situation that Dave did, kind of getting a little mixed up. So I think a little change in that will not change the plans, but just change the wording in it, so it all
right. So
lines up,
Brendan,
so they equal each other.
it would behoove you to sit down with the architect and agree on what's,
Yes,
see in this, what's north and what's south, but the labeling,
yeah, we can take care of that.
okay, as well as the statistics, the
Yes,
thing you pointed out about the frontage, lateral being 7 feet. Yeah, as opposed to setback.
yep, we can make those changes and get that material.
Okay.
to you.
Good point. So I would make a motion to continue the hearing, both to receive corrected statistics and orientation, as well as any other material that may come in. And primarily in May, we will consider a draft decision on this. So I'll
Okay.
make a motion. Woody Chidick makes the motion.
Seconded.
Okay, Lee seconded. I will, Woody will vote in the affirmative. Aye.
and McMorris, aye.
Earl A. Higginson, aye.
Lee Darcey.
Mike Dickey, aye.
Okay, so 5-0. That's where we are. And if there's anybody who's got other issues, they can bring them up next month. Otherwise, that'll be primarily, primarily just to review the submissions and then vote on a draft decision. Montana, who's doing the draft?
I am. Charlie Higginson.
Charlie. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, the next hearing I'm recused. It's 133 North Main Street to build a lateral extension. I think it's mostly dormer, but I think Dave, you chaired this, did you not?
I did.
So I will recuse myself at this moment and mute my.
Okay, and aside from the draft decision, have we gotten any new materials on this particular application?
133 North Main,
Yes.
just the revised site plan.
That was already that was already posted, right, Montana?
Correct.
Okay. John, this is yours, right?
Yes, good evening, John Teriyaki, Teriyaki Architectural Design. As you just mentioned, we submitted the revised site plan showing more of the houses that are abutting the property. to give it more of a context as the board requested. And I'm happy to share it on the screen if you'd like to take a look at it.
Sure.
Yep, so the site plan was basically populated with the properties around, and the dormer in question is right where my cursor is, not over this bump out, but along the main line of the house
Mm-hmm.
towards the back. And again, just a quick recap of the existing dormer. So this is the left side or the east facade. The right here is South Main Street. Existing dormer, which we are extending towards the front and towards the rear, but maintaining its roof pitch and its facade distance from the lot line. And here is the proposed dormer that's elongated with the cubic volumes provided. And there was a question about facade volume, facade area versus cubic volume. There's essentially no difference because the ratio is the same. We just thought that the volume would be more accurate since it is a kind of a triangular extruded triangular prism basically. And there's an existing non-conforming roof area. Anyway, so, but the ratio is going to remain the same, whether this is 2D or 3D.
Okay, and Michael, you had a chance to consider all this before you did your draft, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? All right. Anyone not on the board have any questions or comments? All right, in that case, I'd move that we close the hearing on 133 North Main Street.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor, Dave McMorris, aye.
Bill Higginson, second.
Lee Darcey.
Second.
Mike Dickey, aye.
All right,
Thank you very
hearing
much.
is closed. We'll move on to the considering the decision when we, at the end of the evening. So Woody can come back.
Okay.
Yes.
So the last hearing is a new one for us. 4 lots, really, 98 to 104 Howard Gleason Road, to install a common driveway and utilities to service these 4 lots, one of which is already has a dwelling on it, and the other 3 are undeveloped. So who is going to be presenting the material? Jeff DeLisi, probably, right? And Carmen, a familiar face. Jeff, and I mean, I turn it over to you. You're probably the lead, but why don't you tell us about our role in 9-7, both F and G, and what you want to do in terms of a common driveway. I did, I did want to see the lot configurations and dimensions, which you kindly gave us this afternoon, so that's helpful. All lots appear to comply. It's not surprising, but I just wanted to be sure that there were no anomalies. So take it away.
Thank you. For the record, Jeff DeLisi, Orenberger, DeLisi, and Harris. Carmen Hudson from Merrill Engineering is here as well. Norbert Hermans is one of the 2 property owners. He lives overseas at the moment. And then Stephen Scullin is the other applicant who has joined in on the application. He owns the house on the property that's currently existing. And Carmen will go over the plan. To answer your question, Woody, just as a brief overview for procedure, this property has already received a special permit from the planning board under the current zoning regulations, which were just adopted by the town in 2023, I think, for the common driveway. And a very small portion, and Carmen will go over this, of the common driveway is jurisdictional to your board, and that portion is close to the road, and Carmen will go over that. We are currently before the Conservation Commission on a notice of intent application for an order of conditions. And both the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board have hired peer review engineers for purposes of checking Carmen's engineering involving drainage and stormwater runoff and things of that nature. And Carmen can go over that. As far as your jurisdiction and what the reason why we're here, obviously a portion of the property, as I indicated, closer to the road where we're proposing to do the work for the common driveway is located in your jurisdiction. Under your bylaw, under section 9 or Article 9 of the bylaw, deals with uses within the floodplain, and there are allowed uses and then there are special permit uses. This is not an allowed use as of right listed in the various categories, but what we are proposing under section 9.7 F and G is where we find the jurisdiction, and that is for F is a construction and maintenance of a driveway of minimal legal and practical width where alternative means of access from a public way are unavailable. And then G is the installation and maintenance of underground utilities, provided the area affected is restored substantially to its original condition. So the ZBA is authorized to grant special permits under various sections. Those are the two which apply to this application. Carmen will show you the plan and show you that there is no other alternative means of access. She will show you that there is already a paved driveway which provides access to the existing home, and that is going to be in the same location of the common driveway, and the utilities will run underneath that. So if I've answered your question, I'll turn it over to Carmen. If I didn't, let me know.
I've got just
Yep.
a couple of quick things. The other folks, the Scullens, own, are they tenants, or do they own that property at number 98? And they're part of the application with Norbert Hermans because the common driveway is going to go on much of their land. Is that my understanding, or is that not right?
They are fee
Or do they
owners.
own the other lots?
They own the lot which the house is on presently.
So they are.
And
a
Norbert
party
owns the
interest, or-
remainder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
that's one thing. I wasn't sure if they were a prospective owner of all 4 lots or what the situation was. And secondly, because I don't have in front of me the 2023 revisions, a common driveway servicing 4 or fewer lots, or what's its width and parameters have to be? Just so I know. I couldn't call.
I think Carmen would better answer that
Okay,
for
that's
you.
fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
And in due course, I'm just putting that out there as I'd like to
Yeah,
work
there-
with it at some point. They don't have to lead with that.
I have one question before we really get into the issues. 2 of the members are members of the zoning board are members of the Cohasset Yacht Club adjacent. Are we should we excuse ourselves, which will then mean you don't have a majority?
No, we're certainly comfortable. We don't view that as a conflict, but if it were, it would be something that we would waive.
I'm the other member. I would say, Charlie, that you and I do not serve on any boards or committees of the yacht club, be they executive or
Yeah,
operational. So
But I do.
Mike does.
I'm a race committee co-chair.
Okay.
And I should also say that
A what?
the Hermans used to rented my house some time ago.
None of what anybody is saying is anything that concerns me on behalf of the two applicants as being an impediment that would
Conflict of interest.
yeah, I mean, this board almost, I think I'm hard pressed to even think of a scenario where there was ever nothing other than a unanimous decision. And I think that your question should be answered. For me, it's just simply not a legal issue to concern myself with.
Fine,
Okay.
I'm delighted with the answer.
As far as what do you ask for a plan revision today? And thank you for thank you for noting that and catching that particular issue. Carmen, for the rest of the board, did update the title page to the zoning application to separate out the various lots and show that they would meet the lot width and the lot area and other lot requirements in the zoning bylaw. But I don't really view that, even though it's good information to have, since we already have a planning board special permit, and we're only looking at a small portion of the property that would be jurisdictional. That has really nothing to do with any of that. That's just my opinion, that it's good information to have, but it's probably not relevant to tonight's discussion.
Because
But
you comply with the requirements. If you didn't, and that had been overlooked in some fashion, I think we would think otherwise.
Absolutely.
But it's just, you know, I wanted the record to be accurate and thorough.
I could not agree more. Okay. Carmen, you have anything?
Good evening. I heard my name quite a lot. I am Carmen Hudson, for the record, from Merrill Engineers. If I may share the screen and go over the plan with you. And also for the record, the Conservation Commission has not hired a review engineer. We had a review engineer, Pat Brennan, for reviewing the project on behalf of the planning board. The Conservation Commission was very grateful to see that we were proposing a common driveway to serve 4 lots rather than proposing, you know, keeping the existing driveway and proposing 3 new driveways causing the wetlands. But the hearing was continued so that we could have a site visit. And we have all kinds of things staked out on the site, including the buffer zones and whatnot. But I would like to start the presentation with this plan, where you can, well, hopefully clearly see the 4 lots. I know that this part is very busy. That's just the easement. So this that you see is the easement for the common driveway, and the entire common driveway is located within this easement. As you had mentioned, Mr. Chittick, this portion is within 98 Black Horse Lane, 98 Howard Gleason Road, which is Mr. Scullin's property. The remaining 3 lots, so that's 100, this is 102, and this is 104, are owned by Mr. Norbert Hermans. The lots have at least, and actually more than the required frontage. This ones have a little bit over 50. This ones have much more. They have the minimum required lot width and more than the minimum required 60,000 square foot area. Let me go next to the existing conditions, and this is
Carmen,
quite
can you
busy.
show me where the road is?
Yes,
Howard
the
Gleason Road?
road is right here.
Okay.
That's Howard Gleason Road. The yacht club is right here across the street. And this is the driveway.
All right.
So the existing driveway is 12 feet in width. And as you can see, it serves the home here at 98 Howard Gleason Road. So what we are proposing is, instead of constructing 1, 2, 3 driveways, and these 2 driveways would be extremely long. We are proposing to widen the driveway just by 3 more feet. So we're going from a 12-foot paved driveway to a 15-foot paved driveway. And the driveway it's 15 feet in width. Then we have a Cape Cod berm on either side, the curb, so that we can control all the stormwater and we can guide it. And then there's a shoulder on either side that's just made of gravel. So let me go over to the proposed conditions. So this is what we're proposing. As you can, it's a little bit hard to tell, but let me just do this. The existing driveway is right here. So that's one side of the driveway. And let me see. This is the other side of the driveway.
Pretty good, Carmen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So as you can tell, what we were trying to achieve here is just move the driveway as far away from the wetlands as we could. However, there isn't much space here. This is the limit of Mr. Scullin's property. So we're really pushing it against the limit of the property. And what I also would like to show you, so as you can see, it's pretty much on top of the existing driveway.
Just to break in briefly, Woody, to answer your question about the requirements, it was common driveway must be constructed to no less than 14 feet in width within an access easement of at least 20 feet in width.
Okay, okay.
So this area right here is the floodplain. Anything below this line is within the floodplain. This is the limit of the floodplain. Anything above is outside of the floodplain. So the reason we're here is because we're proposing to reconstruct the driveway and, you know, put new utilities, because the utilities that serve 98 are right here. So we're going to put new utilities under the driveway. So we're proposing
Will that also
work.
serve 98 or just the 3 undeveloped lots?
I'm sorry, the utilities?
Yeah,
It will
Yes.
serve all of it.
all 4.
Actually, the 98, the sewer and water are here. They're well outside of the driveway, and Mr. Scullin is going to keep those utilities.
Okay,
So the utilities that are going to be under the roadway are going to serve the 3 new lots, the 3 vacant lots. So what we're proposing is to bring up the grade here and then make it even. The reason for that is because we're trying to create some low points so that we can catch the runoff, treat it, and infiltrate it. So this is a set of double catch basins that are going to capture runoff between this catch basin and here and send it over to the infiltration system on the bottom. And this set of this set of double catch basins is going to send the flow that comes from here, including some of the driveway from 98, and it's going to send it to this infiltration system and in this direction. So we are actually reducing the peak rate of runoff and volume in every direction. We're also providing more treatment, and we're providing recharge. So that is as far as stormwater is concerned. And of course, we have submitted a stormwater permit application and a notice of intent application to the Conservation Commission. And that's right now we're in the middle of having a site visit next week with the commission. So I believe that I have covered the major what the purpose of this project is. If anybody has any questions, or I could share more information, I could share the detail sheet. I don't know if anybody has any interest.
well, actually, I'd like to ask Mike Dickey, who was vice chair of the Conservation Commission back in 2019. If, and you may remember this, if you see anything here that, you know, is
I
worthy of-
wasn't, I wasn't vice chair of the Conservation Committee ever.
I'm sorry, the planning board.
Oh,
Yeah, that originally approved the plan simply to freeze the then regulations from.
Mike, you were on the planning board when we did the zoning freeze?
I don't think so.
I think so, but be that as it may. Oh, I
I-
see your signature here, but
Really?
yeah, but maybe it was, some administrative
Clark,
thing.
Clark probably.
Clark Brewer signed for you. It said a little,
It sounds
no,
like
you're
a
right.
trap
Yeah,
line.
well, 2024 you weren't, obviously, but it doesn't matter. I just didn't.
No,
know
no,
if
it's
you had
irrelevant. It just, but
any
just,
particular insights into.
just to give the little color to the board, we brought a subdivision application in for this property, not because we wanted to install a subdivision, but the Mass General Laws allows us, should a definitive subdivision plan be endorsed by the planning board and finally approved, it would operate to freeze the zoning from future zoning changes for a period of 8 years,
years,
from from the date of submission. So like that time frame, I think expires in 2026 or 27 or thereabouts. When we went into the planning board, I had referenced to you that there had been a previous zoning change to the common driveway regulations, and I think it was 2023, which was subsequent to the zoning freeze. The only real difference between, from a legal perspective, that really had any application from the fact that we had a zoning freeze was that under your prior bylaw, it was not a special permit, and under your current bylaw it is, which changed the voting requirements. But at the end of the day, they did grant us a waiver, which there's some color behind it, but it actually, we applied the more rigorous standard of the prior bylaw, and that was the waiver. But everything else complied with your current regulation. And so from the perspective of the zoning bylaw with respect to the planning board, we didn't really need the zoning freeze. And with respect to the application that's before the board now, we likewise, we're not seeking to come in under any prior.
Well, I think, Jeff, and it's not germane to this application. The other change from then to now is that our prior common driveway bylaws, I recollect, could go up to 6, 7, or 8 lots, and it's now been reduced to 4, which is fine. I mean, it's not an issue before us or planning board either, but that was the other change.
Yeah. So I'm talking too much, but that was the color.
Okay, I've got one issue, and it just came up, and I don't think it may be a zoning issue, and it may not. I turn to my colleagues. But I was down, quite unrelated to this particular hearing, at about 5:30 this afternoon down at the harbor, and it's not an astronomically high tide. But a resident, Grace Evans, who lives down in the corner, showed me a photograph she had of flooding that went probably 20 to 30 feet up that present driveway. And the reason I noticed it is that I'm a boater. I go down there, but I'm now, never had to before. I now have to think about when is the high tide, an astronomically high tide coming, and can I even access the yacht club? So everything is, this is global warming. This is not your client or anybody else. But it might make access problematic unless, and there might have been an allusion from Carmen that there would be some reconstruction or elevation of the driveway. Would that impact Actors Row, for instance, or other properties along the Howard Gleason Road?
No, so unfortunately, as far as, so stormwater is rainwater, and that's something
Yeah.
that we can control. Flood, when it comes, when it's like in a riverine or a lake kind of flood, freshwater flood, that's also something that we can control, because if you fill in a certain elevation and you cut in that same elevation, then you keep the same capacity. However, when it comes to the ocean, then you're not going to stop the elevation of the ocean. So you see
Yeah.
this elevation 10, for example. Of course, I'm sure that they're going to revise these plans, right? As far as the FEMA maps are concerned. But so right now it says that there's a 1% chance any year that there's going to be a coastal flood that is going to come up to elevation 10. So it doesn't matter what we do here, the elevation of the ocean is going to still come up to that same elevation. Even if you brought up the entire, yacht club up, is not going to change the elevation of the coast of.
Right, and it's
Mhm.
it's rising, and your client and the yacht club and everybody else and Actors Row or whomever can't control that either. I'm just wondering about access from a
as far as
practical
access-
standpoint.
As far as access to, so let me just, for example, you see this center line right here?
Yep.
So you see how this is the 100 feet and it starts right there? So
Mhm.
that's 50 feet right there. This is about 30 feet right here. And this is the property boundary. So that flood, that king tide that you were mentioning, if it's 30 feet, it would come up right about to the property boundary.
But it comes up higher. I mean, I've seen it come up higher.
Well, if it's 30 feet, from, so from the edge of the road, then it would be here. But once again, as far as.
It's probably 30 feet from the property line. I mean, I'm not saying that this is is probably not a zoning issue, and B, I mean, it is what it is, but it's going to make access, it's going to complicated for everybody. Howard Gleason Road floods never flooded 10 years ago, all the way to the other side. Now it does.
Mhm.
Don't you have a seawall out there that again, we're just kind
Yeah,
of talking, but
it's
could you build
it's
it higher?
There is a seawall, but it isn't a total barrier. I mean, there are openings in it and
Yeah.
access points, and that's where the water comes in. It's just it's a fact of life, but
Yeah,
it makes it difficult for
way.
everybody using this area. It's not a fault or a problem, or you don't have to solve global warming. I'm not suggesting that, but
Yeah, as far as that is concerned, there is nothing that any one property owner would be able to do to prevent coastal floods from, the only thing would be to bring up the entire road and bring up every property, up to beyond that elevation. So it's not anything that anyone can solve.
and that's not within the purview of the Conservation Commission. I mean, I'm not challenging it. I just don't know. I haven't dealt with this.
So as far as the Conservation Commission is concerned, like land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is the floodplain, but it's a coastal floodplain. It doesn't have performance standards. The major concern here is the wetland and the fact, you see this right here is the 50-foot buffer zone. So we're proposing, even though there's a paved driveway and we're proposing to move it further away, it still work within their 50-foot buffer zone. So this is a major issue of concern for the Conservation Commission.
So the Wariski House is a perfect example of another set of regulations addressing issues that challenge communities with respect to sea rise, because in that case, if you recall, any improvement that's more than 50% of the value of the building requires it to be brought above the floodplain, which is why piles are there now.
Mhm.
If you have, if you so that kind of comes into play with respect to the yacht club, because should you want a major renovation to the yacht club, then it's possible that the building code kicks in to require it to be elevated as well. It's possible, I don't know, but what I'm saying is
Well,
you know,
that's why,
luckily
that's why
here,
it's 2 to 4 feet higher than it was 10 years ago. I mean, it got
Yeah.
reconstructed and raised.
yeah.
But even that, I mean, who knows? But I'm just thinking from the practical standpoint, from a homeowner's standpoint, there are going to be times when I think it's going to make, because of salt water, it's going to make access difficult. I'm not suggesting that has anything to do with the common driveway, and I'm not suggesting that we should seek jurisdiction. I mean, but it's going to be an issue for everybody right along the.
I think, speaking of someone who grew up familiar with the pleasures of being snowed in for a few days, it's, you know, it happens, and we don't have jurisdiction over it, and I don't know how we could do anything about it anyway. I mean, it's just whatever the ocean comes up to, it's gonna come up
Right.
to.
It's just, yeah, I guess I raise it more as a general or generic problem than it's, as I said earlier, it's not a zoning issue as far as I see it at all.
I have a couple questions on the application. The piece of it that's our jurisdiction, I think it didn't change. But maybe it did. I don't have a copy of the new bylaw in front of me. But I think that what we're supposed to look at is the design of the drainage systems, the area and depth of excavations, and the area, depth, and conservation of any fill, or composition of any fill. Can you address those questions?
So as far as stormwater or drainage is concerned, that is what the planning board looked at, and that is what the Conservation Commission actually primarily looks at. It's, you know, the stormwater permit. So it's the one permit that has everything to do with drainage. And we comply with the 10 standards of the, you know, the state standards, and the stormwater bylaw is much more strict than the state standard. So we also comply with the stormwater bylaw. As far as the material is concerned, that would be something that the planning board normally checks, and that is actually you can see in the detail sheet, I'm calling out for the spec for what goes underneath the driveway. So that has also been reviewed by the review engineer, Pat Brennan, that reviewed the project through the planning board process.
Yeah, I don't have any question about any of that. I just wanted to have you specifically address it because that's what we have to talk about in our decision. It's
Oh,
pretty
come
much,
on. You didn't want to know about that, David?
well, actually, the composition of the fill is really my thing, but I think most of what we have to do here is redundant to what other people have already done, but we still have to do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Carmen, but and you alluded to it in your presentation. When you compare the proposed common driveway versus the existing condition, aren't we sending less water
Yes.
to the street than what we are sending now?
Yes, so it's in both directions. So right now.
So we're improving the existing situation at least.
Yes, so what we have to do per the state regulations is reduce the peak rate of runoff. That is how fast runoff can come out of the site. And there are two directions for the water, one that goes towards the street and one that goes towards the back part of the wetland that ends in Cohasset Harbor. So both rates of runoff are being reduced, so that's slowed down. But also something that the stormwater bylaw not the state, but the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw requires us to do, is also match volumes. And we're reducing the volumes also in both directions. So that is how much volume of water comes out of the site at the end of this development.
Okay.
The plan that
what-
was on our screen earlier
Oh, Charlie.
is very complicated. And I was trying to locate myself, and I'm acquainted with the Cohasset Yacht Club. The design on the plan of the yacht club is totally wrong. Does that make any difference? The aerial photograph is actually very, very accurate.
So on our plan, we actually don't have the yacht club. I was just pointing out that it's on this side of the street.
Carmen, don't we, doesn't the yacht club own property on the north side of Howard Gleason Road adjacent?
That property.
I think it's number 92.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the actual yacht club across the street. Yeah, so that is what we had as of record at the driveway. There is like mulch, I think.
And
a
my
parking
point is
area
that
over here.
92 is not an accurate depiction of the yacht club.
So this is an old, an old.
That's an ancillary building. It's not
Yes,
the yacht club building.
Oh,
Is what
okay.
is what Carmen is saying. The yacht club building that we commonly think of as the yacht club is on the opposite side of Howard Gleason
It's
Road.
really not on the plan that we're seeing.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Across the street. Mhm.
Lee, do you have anything? Oh, you're muted, so,
I don't.
okay. And Michael, as Vice Chair of the Planning, Conservation, and School Committees.
No,
what's your-
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Who else do we have? John Hallen, any comments from you?
No, just that I know they've been working through conservation and been in touch with them, and it seems to be favorable as to what they're doing. And I'm sure they'll be back at conservation once there's future house plans for that stormwater. This is just the stormwater for the common driveway, so no questions here.
Okay. Montana, is there anybody in the queue?
Not at this time.
What? Sorry?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Okay, well, with that, I would, unless the board itself has anything last to raise, I would make a motion to continue this hearing until May 7th, at which time, during which time we're open to other submissions, but at that hearing, it'll be primarily to take a look at a draft decision and make a decision on it. So with that, I'd make a motion to continue the hearing until May 7th.
Second,
Moved and seconded by Charlie Higginson. All in favor, Woody Chitik, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Charlie Higginson, aye.
Lee Darcey.
Mike Dickey, aye.
Okay, so
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
yes, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, it's good to be in front of the board again. Thank you.
We've missed you.
On a much
Please,
less contentious
please,
matter.
Don't stress our credibility too much here.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye, thanks. Okay, now there's a few little things. I'm gonna
Woody,
recuse
before we
myself.
move on to deliberations,
Right.
I just want to make sure that we have selected someone for 98 to 104 Howard Gleason for the draft decision.
That was going to be my next question. Good thinking.
I can do that
Um,
one.
Does anybody kind of feel guilty like they haven't done a decision in a while, or
Yeah,
who's that from?
it's David. I'm
David?
feeling overwhelmingly guilty.
Oh,
Do
thank
you
you,
want
thank
to
you.
do it
thank
or
you.
not? I don't want you
Yeah, I'll
to
take it.
toss
I'll
and
take it.
turn all night.
No, I'll take it. No problem.
Okay.
Do I get credit for 4 decisions because it's 4 lots?
Oh, ooh,
Yeah, you get a buy for months and months and years actually for that. Good luck. But why don't we, I've got a couple of administrative things, but why don't we do the deliberation first? And I'm going to mute myself and close my videos.
Okay. So this was Michael, right?
Yeah, I think so. If it's 133 North Main, it was
Okay, and I know
pretty short and sweet because it is what it is.
pretty short, sweet piece of wood going up.
I thought it was a great decision. I liked the format with the questioning back and forth. That was very clear.
Well, I will tell you, I stole that from Montana. So thank her. Don't thank me. I borrowed liberally from her minutes. So that's,
Well, it was very easy to follow and it was very comprehensive.
You guys.
Team effort. I don't have any questions about it.
that now, do I need just to add, kind of the short little recap of what we discussed tonight, which was basically John, answered a couple questions and Reese and confirmed that he'd resubmitted the site plan and that was about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I can tune up a short little add to it to deal with just a recap of what we covered tonight, which was again short and sweet.
If you could get that to me before next Tuesday, that would be great, just because I'm gonna be on vacation after that. I just want to make sure I can mail out the decision before then.
Yeah, I think I can commit to that, Montana.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
My pleasure.
I can make a motion to approve the decision drafted by Mike Dickey for 133 North Main Street.
I'll second that.
I'll vote in favor.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Charlie Higginson, aye.
Lee Darcey.
You all right?
Oh, okay, and
decision-
Matt's not around. I gotta mention that, don't I?
So the application is approved unanimously. And back to Woody.
Okay, two pieces of business, but actually a third, or just a posting. To approve the March 12th, 2024 minutes. I must say I gave them a quick read. I didn't see anything that jumped out at me at all. Did anybody have any edits of substance as opposed to grammatical? Grammatical can go to Montana offline.
I read them and I thought they were accurate.
Anybody else? And if you're not comfortable approving them tonight, we can certainly wait until the May meeting. I mean, it's
I'm fine with them.
That they were fine.
okay. Charlie, you okay with them?
Yeah, in brief.
Okay, yeah. So I'd make a motion to approve the March 12th, 2024 minutes. Need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, Woody Chidick, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Charlie Higginson, aye.
Lee Darcey.
Michael Dickey, aye.
Great. Does anybody have a known conflict for May 7th? Which is the first Tuesday of that month. Okay, so I think we can shoot for that. Please let us know quickly if that's a problem. The third thing is I just wanted to talk to the board. I've talked to Dave about this, but I have not, it's not traveled. As you know, I'm doing my, I think it's my 40th year on this board or something stupid like that. And so I've decided to actually flip, and I will go to the select board at the appropriate moment in June and request that I become an associate member and step down as a full voting member, because I just think I've past the best of use by date. And I don't think the optics are awfully good. I mean, 40 years is ridiculous. So I've talked to Dave, who's the vice chair, and asked him, this is again without any approvals by the select board, so I don't want to screw it up, but I've asked him if he would be willing to be the chair as opposed to the vice chair, and I think he's graciously accepted that challenge. And so I wanted to be in the board for another year or so, but in a perhaps a less visible, but knowing me, I can't resist talking, so you're gonna get an earful regardless. But I just think it looks a lot better than staying on a board too long. So that's my thought. And it's more than a thought. It's my desire to become an associate member, and after a couple of years, then I'll just, fade away. I'm waiting for the zoning bylaw committee to be done, and then I can feel free to advocate for accessory dwelling units, historic district commission, things like that I think the town sorely needs.
Well, who's gonna write that decision, Woody?
What decision?
Yours.
Oh, I'll have a paragraph, but otherwise I'll go on too long and screw it up. No, but I mean, I think the town does need to sort of modernize a little bit. I'm passionate about historic district commissions because I really, really worry. And I've got the bandwidth and the time to do that even today, but I just think the zoning board would be better to, it needs, you guys have all been wonderful. I wouldn't change a soul here, but when I step aside in a year or two, then I think would be wonderful to get yet another person. So, I mean, but I haven't talked to Gene Dippold or anybody else, and I'd like to do that, but I didn't want to do that without just mentioning to you folks first as a courtesy.
I don't know what we're gonna do. We'll be adrift, Woody.
Oh, you won't be adrift, and I'm going to be an associate member, just like you. So you and I can both be annoying little nudges there.
Woody, I do think Gene's coming off the board in whenever the election is.
Yeah, when does that transition? John, do you know when the transition is, or?
No, I'm not sure. We can find out tomorrow and let you know.
Yeah, if you would, because I'd like to give who is ever going to take over the heads up that this is, I mean, they don't even have to appoint me an associate, but I mean, at least it's what I think might make for an easy glide out after a year or so, and I'd like to tip them off.
I do believe it's going to be next year, because I was talking to Cassandra about this the other week.
You mean my term?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would transition out this year and fill my term up, but
No,
last
I'm
year,
referring to
associate.
Jean. Jean's
Jean.
term will be done next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought she said she wasn't running again.
I think they have one
Okay.
more year to finish
All right,
out.
well,
and
I'll
then
talk to
voting.
Jean then. I mean, if that's so, why don't we give that a day or so just to confirm it? I mean, I know you're looking at the town website. For some reason, I was really strongly under the impression that this was her last.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. David Varag is running unopposed, I think.
Yeah, he's filling her spot.
Oh, I apologize then.
So it'll be somebody. I mean, Jack's already been the chair. I mean, he could be again, but I don't know.
And also as to the matter of the chair of our board, I think the members elect the chair. So
Right, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to know if you would throw your hat in the ring.
I'd be happy to
Did
be a candidate.
I probably didn't escape entirely from that faux pas, but
Oh, Woody's still controlling, even
in my dotage,
even in your
when they
even saying
sent
that
me
you're
to the
going
home and
not
I
really. You're
I
gonna
will
glide
call
out,
in.
Still handpicking everything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think in too much thinking. Okay.
Well, I think that you have good ideas, and I definitely, look forward to all of your comments and your, the things, the statements that you write for us to guide us are just illuminating, and I hope that doesn't. I hope you will continue to provide us with your guidance as long as you're on the board.
Well, as long as I'm of sound mind and body, I mean, you never know when that's gonna happen. We've seen some of that already play out nationally. But okay, yeah, anyway.
I think it's reasonable for us to expect at least one white paper every year.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Mhm.
And how many decisions, Dave, are you, if the board so elects you, how are you gonna make me right?
All the hard ones.
All the hard ones. Yeah.
All right. Sounds like Atlantica's coming. I know, I don't know what's coming up. By the
I've
way, what
gotten
is,
fond
I
of-
mean, are they working away, John, at the Cohasset, whatever it's called, hospital? No, I don't know what it's called.
Yes, I think which one, the Atlantica?
Yeah,
Yeah, I know they're waiting for some materials to put up one of the other barriers they need to. That's been on order, so that's what's kind of holding them up now. So I think once that barrier material comes in, then they'll start removing a portion of the roof that they want to, and then continue with it.
Good.
And then there has been another phase that's been talked about further on down between Atlantica and the bridge, but I think that's still in the talking phase now. So
yeah.
eventually it will be up to the boards, but I don't know when.
Well, I guess, the two phrases or words are parking and water dependent. On that, and if they can solve those, great, because the harbor at this point is really in disarray, although I must say the condo properties, in my humble opinion, is looking quite attractive. I mean, I worried a lot about, and I might still worry, but it's looking pretty good. And then you got the Oaks. Is anything happening to that Oaks property, the old Barron property?
There was some interest with perhaps a sportsman club of some sort, but I haven't heard anything else in the last couple of months.
I was approached by the two principals to review their plans, and I said, I don't, and the zoning board does not review plans. We're a board of appeals. And I said, have you talked to John Hallen? They said, oh, well, John thinks it's great and everything is fine. And I said, so I know
always have the
better.
same quote.
Don't worry, I know better. But I said that just simply reinforces the fact that I will see you if there is a zoning board of appeals hearing on this matter. But other than that, you'll have to talk to the planning, but primarily the planning board, I think, is but I don't even know. They didn't seem to, and I said, and by the way, I used the we, I hope with your permission, don't deal with, non-owners, speculative. Should I buy this? Will you give me an approval? Is it worth my buying? I mean, I'm not going to get into that at all. That's a kind of a really dangerous road to go down. So I think they were fishing. I mean, they said nothing that I dislike. It's just, that's just not our role. To be an advisor, a financial advisor. Does this make good sense? Can I get the board to toe the line? I mean, I don't know. So we'll see, John. I don't know if that works.
Yeah, and that was very, very preliminary as to what they were thinking about. They hadn't really talked to any professionals yet, engineers or architects or any lawyers. So I think they, had a initial conversation. That was probably as far as it went.
Mike Dickey, you being a boater, if you wanted to invest in that proposition, I saw their preliminary sheet, $5 million, you'd get a free slip. Now, I don't know whether a 210 would work, but but you'd get a free slip.
Well, I only wish I had the $5 million rolling around between the couch cushions, because maybe I would if I did.
It sounds like a good business, though. I gotta find some free stuff that I can give away for $5 million.
I know. We'll see. I mean, my fingers are crossed because that's really a limited use structure, but nevertheless, I mean, and the payback was 3 years or something in the prospectus. Oh, sure. So at any rate,
Before we log off, there's one last minute thing on the agenda. So Mike Dickey brought to my attention that the zoning bylaw committee would like you all to review the proposed bylaws. And hold a special meeting to do so before our May meeting. With that being said, I know that the select board is to approve the warrant article on the 23rd, which gives us a very tight window frame to hold a special meeting because I will be gone the 3rd week of April. So I was planning on sending out a few dates and times tomorrow, unless you guys want to do it now, because I know Matt's not here right now.
no, I think you'd better do it tomorrow
Okay.
and give us some dates. Yeah, I'm
Sorry about that, but Tom especially would like to come before the board and kind of give everybody an overview of what the committee has been doing and what the changes that we're recommending.
When does he think he could get some actual written material in our hands so we could review it?
I think it's basically all ready to go, but I can ask him.
Mike, there've been 2 or 3 iterations of this FAR and other things that have come through, and I kind of tend not to read them only because there's another update. And if Tom and your whole committee could kind of freeze time, it would be helpful. The other thing I'd find helpful is from a zoning perspective, if you could give us a couple of heads up. You might want to look at this subsection here, or this is a substantive change, as opposed to wording or consolidation. I mean, that stuff doesn't, interest me too much. But if there's a substantive change, and I know that fire is bouncing around a little bit, floor area ratio, as opposed to coverage. Just give us a heads up, because I don't, I mean, I understand it, but I don't know whether the application, whether it's more onerous, less onerous, or completely neutral, just a different you know, French versus English, but it says the same thing. That I'm not sure of.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have to say I'm not sure either. I think it's I don't know if you know I and perhaps you know at the risk of offending Tom and I I think Tom doesn't like the large home review process.
Okay.
And he's proposing this floor area ratio as a substitute. Well, not a substitute, but
Because it's not design related at all. I mean, it's area related,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
mean, it's dimensional related.
yeah, yeah. And so I think he feels it's a fairer way to you know, it focuses in on the size of the house as opposed to other aspects. The way the large
Mhm.
home review kind of, you know, brings in some subjective elements and design elements. This is just kind of by the numbers, and I think he'd argue that it's a little more objective as a result. And I think it also adds some teeth in the sense that, you know, you can do whatever you want up to the far, but you're going to, if you, you know, or you can get a special permit to build something that goes 10% above the far, or a variance if you want to go above 10% of the far, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, I mean, in a May, I'm kind of very sympathetic to that. What I don't know is a basic fire, you know, whose ox is gored if you apply the basic fire, or does that encompass almost all houses?
I think it encompasses basically everybody. I think that's I think it's a that type of discussion you know, resulted in again my words, my subjective opinion, some heated discussion between Clark and Tom. And Tom and Clark, Clark felt very strongly that there wasn't enough data produced to figure out if the number that Tom proposed as the FAR was the right number. And I think essentially the board, you know, with Clark as a dissenting vote, decided that what made the most sense was to put something on the board, have the town vote on it, and if at a, you know, if in a year or two after we have some real kind of, you know, rubber hitting the road, we can, you know, the town and its
Could modify it
modify it up
yeah.
or down depending on what the, you know, what we were seeing, you know, in real life. But
Okay, so I would make a request to both you on the zoning bylaw committee and John, Helen, if there are things that we ought to really be aware of because it's a substantive change or it's, you know, I mean, you know, in undetermined or what the issues are. I just find that useful because there's so much stuff to read and you go through and you say, gee, this is the same thing. So
yeah, no,
I put
I hear you.
a bunch of stuff in a bucket that isn't really substantively changed. And then there's
Yeah.
something else that I think we as a board ought to focus on, but I'm not always sure I pick it up.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And yeah, I think there's a lot of reordering of things and kind of moving things around. You know, I think the list of, you know, true substantive changes is actually rather, it's a pretty small number.
Okay,
As I say, and I think I mentioned another one that's come up is this kind of buffer zone notion, where you have a business district abutting a residential district. They're adding again, for want of a better word, a buffer where the height restriction, I kind of look at it like a step. So, you have your setback. But in addition to the regular setback, you can't build up to the full height right at the setback. You have a limited build at the setback for another, 10 feet, at which point then you can go up to the full height. And again, I think the idea in theory is if you're abutting a residential area, someone doesn't want to look out of their bedroom window and see a wall that goes up to the sky. And so,
John.
sorry, John, go ahead.
No, I think you kind of, the transition zone between two different, might be residential and business districts. So that's the zone he's talking about. And then with the other thing you had mentioned, I think with a large home review as it was there, a lot of that's there is a code change coming up in the summertime, part of the stretch or energy code, that's going to make it a lot harder to build larger homes because of the requirements needed too. So I think some of that restriction is already coming, whether we know about it or not, there because of the requirements that the new homes are going to need to meet.
And
this will be a state, kind of a 40A kind of thing, not a local.
well, the changes the state's going to force on all towns that have commuter rail stations in them, as Cohasset does, the state is requiring towns with commuter rail stations to provide dense zoning forcing them to have zoning that allows for dense housing within I don't know, some 5 or 10 minute walk, maybe half a mile of the station. And obviously that's gone over like a ton of bricks in a lot of communities. I don't see Cohasset being any less welcoming to that concept, but the reality is that's what the state is saying. If from the state's perspective, if you have a commuter rail station, then it makes sense to allow for dense development close to the station to allow for folks to live and walk to the station rather
Right,
than.
well, not the weird thing, but the situation in Cohasset, particularly in North Cohasset, I don't know down around North Situate, the other end of town, but is that much of that land is not, you can make it available for multi-unit housing, but you've got a cemetery there and a golf course and wetlands and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden it's Sawyer Street and you're walking 20 minutes, which is not so we have less.
And again, it doesn't mandate multi-unit housing. It just requires towns to change their zoning to allow for it. But
Well, of course,
I agree, especially around that north, the Cohasset stop at the north of town. There's very little actual land nearby that would be, I think, developable, but who knows?
yeah, well, we shall see. Well, anyway, I'd appreciate heads up from both you guys, and Montana will let us know, give us a few suggestions tomorrow. And
Montana, do you have Tom's email so that you can make sure we coordinate with Tom, please?
Yeah, I'll send a BCC out to everyone tomorrow.
Okay.
I would, and the thing, Montana, I would really, really like to stress is whatever we get, if at all possible, don't make subsequent changes to it. Because I mean, I can't tell you.
I agree, I agree. I share that
You gotta
frustration.
freeze it, freeze time.
Yeah, no.
Will
yeah.
do.
I mean, obviously, if it's a flaw or,
Yeah.
but
But I think Tom is making presentations to the select board. And so I think at that point, things will be more or less inked in rather than remaining in pencil.
okay.
I want to second that the sooner we get it to make comments, the better. I've found in the last one that the planning board didn't even know the changes they were making.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get quality feedback if it's, if you're commenting on something that's obsolete.
I
And,
hear you.
no, I know, I mean, you can only do so much, but just maybe underscore it if it comes up, that. Yeah, I'd rather come back in a year or two, as you said earlier, Mike, and say, look, this was 90% fine, but there are a few, glitches in it that we've got to fix. I'd rather do that than try to be fixing it up until the, floor of town meeting or something stupid like that. I mean, it's just,
Well, I hear you on that one.
yeah, I know. I'm preaching to the choir, but okay. So I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, Woody Chitik, aye?
Jamie Coruscant.
Lee Darstag.
Mike Dickey, aye.
All right, so meeting adjourned. We will meet sometime in April to be determined, and then the next formal zoning board meeting, or at least hearings, I should say, will be on May 7th.
Super.
All
Thank you,
right,
everyone. Have a good one.
have fun.
Good evening.